Here are the highlights of this week's news on Japan Today. I'm Nathan, and if you have kids, you should know that the Japanese government has approved a bill to allow joint custody after divorce, which has long been a contentious issue for Japan. Current child custody rules allow only sole custody by one parent, but the bill would permit either sole custody or joint custody. A family court will intervene if there is a dispute. If there is suspicion of child abuse or domestic violence by one of the parents, though, the court will then require the other parent to have sole custody. The current system poses challenges for foreign citizens looking to maintain relationships with their children, in the case that their divorced partners travel to Japan with the children. Japan is actually a signatory to the Hague Convention of International Child Abduction, but has not enforced it, which leaves these former spouses with no way to see or have any contact really with their children if that parent with sole custody doesn't want them to have contact. This system has been heavily criticized for not enforcing payment of child support after the divorce. This new bill will make it so that they have to provide a minimum level of child support to the parent rearing the child. Over-tourism has become a big problem in some parts of Japan, and Osaka Prefecture is considering collecting a fixed fee from foreign visitors, possibly timing it around the start of the Osaka Expo in April 2025. Osaka Governor Hirofumi Yoshimura said the fee would be used to fund over-tourism countermeasures, and he did not elaborate. He told a news conference, "We want foreign visitors to enjoy Osaka and try to realize a coexistence with local residents through the beautifications of towns." And what about Japanese visitors? The governor didn't say anything about them. And many Japan Today readers also wondered, how is this tax collection system even gonna work? Are foreigners arriving by plane, ship, train, automobile from other parts of Japan all gonna be charged the tax? And how are the officials supposed to know who's just a visitor and who is an actual resident? These are all good questions, none of which Governor Yoshimura has answered. We are waiting. The ball is in your court, Governor. While we're on the subject of over-tourism, Kyoto, nearby to Osaka, has decided to ban visitors from entering private alleys in the city's famous geisha district. Kyoto residents have long expressed frustration with tourists behaving badly, especially in the city's Gion district, home to tea houses where geiko, also known as geisha, and their young maiko apprentices perform. In December, a Gion district council comprised of residents urged the city to deal with the issue, saying their neighborhood is not a theme park. One member complained about an instance of a maiko's kimono being torn, and another who had a cigarette butt put in her collar. Council member Isokazu Ota said they don't want to ban the visitors, but at this point they're just getting desperate and they're going to be putting up signs. He said that these groups of tourists sometimes act like paparazzi when geisha emerge from the narrow alleys, which are just 1 to 2 meters wide, which doesn't leave a lot of space for photo taking. Leave the geishas alone, let them be. It's like when you're on a safari. Look, don't interact. The film about atomic bomb pioneer J. Robert Oppenheimer won 7 Academy Awards on Sunday and has grossed nearly $1 billion since its opening last July. But the film is still yet to be released in Japan. Some critics said that the story glossed over the human cost in Japan, while others were upset about the marketing and memes surrounding Barbie and Oppenheimer. 86-year-old Teriko Yahata, who often speaks on behalf of survivors of the nuclear blasts, was 8 years old when she saw the light envelop the sky over her home city of Hiroshima. She states that she is eager to be among the first to see Oppenheimer at its delayed opening in Japan on March 29th. She hopes that the film will reinvigorate debate over nuclear weapons, saying, "I don't hold a grudge against Mr. Oppenheimer himself. I think it's important for the film to be screened in Japan so we can learn from it and not lose that awareness that we need to preserve a future for our loved ones." Japanese media have been using a new expression recently, Moshi-Tora, which literally means if Trump. It appears in headlines of stories about what it might mean for Japan if Donald Trump retakes the White House in the November US presidential election. Shukan Shinsho was one of the first publications out of the Moshi-Tora starting gate, with a 5-page article on how Trump's election could affect Japan's economy. One analyst says His re-election will constitute a lethal blow to Japan. Take imported beef, for example. Japan applies a protective tariff on imported beef of 23.1%. If the US retaliates, it's possible the same rate would be applied to all Japanese exports to the US. Then corporate profits will nosedive, likely causing Japan's stock prices to plummet. Another analyst believes Trump's America First position will see a reduction in America's engagement in foreign affairs, which is likely to affect the international order. This could result in a crisis over Taiwan, meaning Japanese firms doing business in China are probably gonna be hit hard. Japan has already been trying to reach out to Trump. Earlier this year, Deputy Prime Minister Taro Aso was sent to New York to try and see Trump, but just couldn't find anyone to talk to. How does the government send the deputy prime minister to just go and just see if he can talk to someone? That doesn't make any sense. If he went all the way in New York, I hope he at least had like a hot dog or something. Hot dog. Some sad news for anime fans last week as Akira Toriyama, the creator of Japan's hugely popular and influential Dragon Ball series, passed away. First serialized in 1984, Dragon Ball is one of the best-selling manga franchises of all time and has spawned countless anime series, films, and video games. For those who don't know the story, all two of you, Dragon Ball features my main man Goku. He's collecting the 7 orange orbs to make wishes and fight increasingly powerful men who like to scream and transform into often bigger, but sometimes smaller, men. Jokes aside though, in an interview in 2013, Toriyama said, "I just hope that readers will have a fun time reading my works." And for me personally, I remember as a kid watching Dragon Ball on TV, playing the games on my old CRT desktop. I was fighting my neighbors on Budokai 3 for the PS2. I always played Kid Buu because, he's the strongest one. I remember my parents got me a huge poster of Super Saiyan 3 Goku because that's the coolest one. Big poster from my room, so Goku would just be watching me every night as I sleep. Gohan would just watch me eat. Goten, he wasn't on the poster. But again, speaking seriously, even as an adult, Dragon Ball Kai and Dragon Ball Super are really some of the most memorable anime watching experiences I've ever had. So, Mr. Toriyama, I, speaking just for myself, certainly had a very, very fun time with your works, and may you rest in peace. And now it's time for the weird and wonderful news brought to you by Gaijin Pot Jobs. Do you know what inflation is? Are you poor? Aren't we all? But you can stop that by heading to Gaijin Pot Jobs, applying for a better job, getting that good resume online. Make that money, baby. Let's go. You can do it. Gaijin Pot Jobs. Weird. Wonderful. One company wants their male employees to become more sympathetic toward female colleagues. Since March 8th was International Women's Day, some of the guys were asked, or maybe volunteered, or potentially forced at gunpoint, to experience simulated menstrual pain. This was done through a paranoid device which sent electric signals via pads placed below the navel to stimulate the lower stomach muscle and induce a cramping sensation. After using the device, a 26-year-old employee said, "I now understand women have to work while fighting this pain every month. It's actually amazing how women can do that. I really respect them. Congratulations, my man." The company in question, XAO, said it wants to create an environment where its more than 90% male workforce can be supportive of their female peers. And no beef to you, XAO, but maybe consider your company not being more than 90% men. That might help also. I don't know. Cheerleaders at sporting events tend to draw a lot of attention from spectators, sometimes the wrong kind. One example being Upskirt shots, a team competing in this year's spring Koshien baseball tournament, which, if you've ever watched a baseball anime, is what the dudes all start crying over when they lose. You know if you've ever seen one. They have had enough of voyeuristic photographers, and this team is making a change to its cheerleaders' uniforms. During the 2023 tournament, Takasaki University of Health and Welfare High School stated that its cheerleaders in the stands were victims of upskirt photography, as voyeurs posed as media press took unscrupulous photos of them. When this team shows up at Koshien Stadium on March 18th this year, the cheerleaders will be wearing shorts instead of skirts, and their shirts will match those of the baseball players' uniforms. But hey, if this doesn't stop the pervs, maybe the cheerleaders can just carry bats. And to be clear, I mean the animals. I do not condone violence. Everyone knows the old saying, my mom always told me, a flying mammal a day keeps the voyeur away. Japan did very well at the Academy Awards this week, with honors for 2 of its films. Hayao Miyazaki, the filmmaker whose anime classics have enchanted fans around the world for decades, won his 2nd Oscar for the Best Animated Film, The Boy and the Heron. Hailed as one of the best films of 2023, it beat its top rival in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. The film was a decade in the making. And in this age of CGI and artificial intelligence, Miyazaki has stuck to his guns, that being the lengthy process of hand-drawing his animations. Well, look, Miyazaki-san, I'm gonna let you finish, but, you know, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the best animated film of all time. Of all time! It was robbed! I haven't actually seen The Boy and the Heron. I'm sure it's very good. I apologize. That was too much of me. Japan's other Oscar winner was Godzilla Minus One from writer-director Takashi Yamazaki, which won the award for Best Special Effects. It was the first time the big monster was nominated for an Oscar in the franchise's vaunted 70-year history. Over 600 effect shots were created for the film. Yamazaki said he believes it's telling that both he and Christopher Nolan, who made Oppenheimer, were separately drawn back to the dawn of the nuclear era in their filmmaking. You might recall that last week, we reported a story about a teacher that beat up a student. Well, another teacher has been disciplined now for shoving a student against a wall in a hallway and telling him, "I'm going to kill you." The 31-year-old teacher at Sagamihara City Junior High School in Kanagawa Prefecture was suspended for 3 months last week, but resigned on the same day, thank God. After the incident, the school conducted a survey amongst the students, and it was discovered there were multiple complaints about this teacher. In club activities, the teacher was verbally abusive toward female students, saying things like, "Why can't you do it right? We don't need kids like you here." Not to make light of the situation, but I must say I hope the teacher is not in charge of the volleyball club, because that would literally be the first opening 5 hours of the game Persona 5. Furthermore, the education board has reprimanded the principal for being lax in his management of school activities and supervision of staff. We don't know where the teacher is now, but hopefully not at another school. I know where he should be: Alcatraz. And that's all for this week's news. By the way, did you notice I have plants now? What will we have next week? Tune in to find out. Maybe 3 plants. Oh, it's very heavy.